From Kristi Noem admitting to killing her dog and getting massive backlash in return, to the elite telling us that inflation is not happening, even though when we go to the grocery stores, we can't even afford anything. Also in the news, we have a situation that involves serving a warrant for someone's arrest, and 8 officers end up getting shot in the process. What does the left say about this? Why did the police even have guns? I give up. All of that and more on today's episode.
Facts over tracks, isn't that spitting slow, spitting fast? I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
Starting right off, we have an article from The Federalist. We have in defense of Kristi Noem. Now, there's really no defense for Kristi Noem because of the fact that she said that she killed her dog because it was a disobedient dog. How about if you just get rid of your dog? But let's see what the Federalist has to say, because I generally do agree with the Federalist. By now, everyone on God's green earth has heard of the story of the South Dakota rancher and Governor Kristi Noem shot her 14-month dog, Cricket, after an attack and killed the neighbor's chickens. Horrified by the carnage, she tried to restrain the chicken-loving canine who bit her for her efforts. Things escalated from there. At that moment, writes Noem, I realized I had to put her down. The story from her upcoming book, No Going Back, the truth on what's going on with politics and how we can move America forward. So, of course, when we sit here and we know that you're writing a book and we see all of the headlines about your political book, that's not a good thing. We're not supposed to hear about the stuff that you're saying inside of your political book. It's supposed to be something that you just release. You get the support of some people. You have some political ambitions in the more federally. You want to either become vice presidential candidate or a candidate for president of the United States. That's what you typically do. You write a book. DeSantis did the same thing. Trump did the same thing. Everybody always writes a book when you're running for president. So the fact that we heard about the book, the fact that that portion of the book is what we're hearing is not good. You look at Kristi Noem's Twitter when she actually made a response to this, and she has 22,000 comments. Nobody agrees with her. Nobody agrees with the reasoning behind this. So she should have just never said this. It was a misstep on her part. But I see some people defending it, and I can kind of sort of see why people are defending it. But at the same exact time, I have dogs of my own. I would never kill them for disobeying me. I would never kill them for killing somebody else's chickens. I would just make sure that they go to the specialized training. Especially, they say 14-month-old. How about we just use years? It's a 1-year-old dog. Of course, the dog's going to be disobedient. It's 1 year old. So what do you really expect? I have a girl dog, Lily. She's about 1 year old. Maybe she's almost 2. Okay, she's not obedient all of the time. It's okay because she's still young. She's still young. She's still learning. And we teach her every single day. We don't kill her. We don't hit her. We teach her with treats. We teach her with kindness. We teach her with patience. That's what I do with my dog, Lily, and I do it with my dog, Winston. Winston's 7 years old. That's the guide dog that I have. He knows what to do and what not to do. So when he does something wrong, he knows that he's doing something wrong. And most of the time, he doesn't do anything wrong because we trained him well. We took him to training. We spent thousands of dollars for specialized training for him. That's why he acts so much better than Lily, because he has the training. But I'm not going to sit here and complain about Lily, even though we never trained Lily. It makes no sense whatsoever. So, of course, you already know which side I am on. I'm not on Kristi Noem's side. But I do realize that a lot of people say, well, life on the barn is a little bit different. Yeah, okay. Life on the barn is a little bit different. I'll give you that. But, right, you don't kill something that you never trained. You never gave the chance. If we, being conservatives, are pro-life, then why are we going to sit here and say that just, if you have zero patience for something, just kill it? No. And you definitely don't go around telling people, it's like the shout your abortion people. We don't want to hear it. It's if you want to quote unquote have safe, legal, and rare, which does not make any sense whatsoever. But if you do want that, then be quiet and shut up. Stop shouting it. Kristi Noem, this was a big miscalculation on her part. So, moving with the article, one might reasonably ask, what's wrong with Noem's editor? Decentralized through Americans are the emulation of the unborn. This is a story few of them can properly categorize. According to Pew Forum, many millions of United States households own a dog. About 97% of dog owners consider their pets as part of the family. Yeah, a really big percentage of people actually consider their pets part of the family. That's exactly why people feel so strongly for or against this topic. The inclusion of this episode in her book wasn't stupidity. It was a failure to read the country beyond the confines of their working in the rich or farm. Okay, I can kind of see where she's coming from, but yeah, like I said, this is a big miscalculation. She did not realize what kind of support dogs and animals have in this country. And that is something no candidate for public office can afford to do. Fully agree. The book is timed to boost the governor's profile and therefore her chances to be President Trump's choice as a running mate. But it was more than cricket that Noam put down that day 20 years ago. It was probably her vice presidential hopes. Okay, but if she never said anything, then her vice presidential hopes would have still been here. Social media was made for such moments, and Noam has been memed, gifted, and polarized as if she had started a proxy war with Russia or voiced her support for the unreversible adolescent transgender surgeries. Okay, scratch that, but you get the point. Apparently, nothing outrages Americans so much as cruelty to animals or what they prove to be cruelty as to animals. Just as Minnesota's Walter Palmer, who killed Seal the lion while hunting in Zimbabwe's Heritage National Park in 2015. Cricket, like Seal before her, became the George Floyd of the animal kingdom overnight. Oh yeah, you know what? That kind of reminds me of Harambe too. No, you know what? This kind of reminds me of Harambe too, because Harambe was killed because Harambe, the ape, if you do remember this was actually when I was in the 6th grade. So if we're thinking about that and so forth, so I would say like 10 years ago, so long ago. I remember this like it was yesterday. Harambe was actually shot inside of a park because somebody broke into his cage. The mom was not watching. Her daughter or son, I forget which one it was, so long ago. But now that contradicts what I just said. I remember it like it was yesterday. Anyway, the son or the daughter broke into the cage of Harambe, which is an ape at a zoo, and Harambe started trying to kill the intruder. So Harambe ended up getting shot to death to protect the son, which I totally agree with. Protect life over some animal. Now, because Harambe was shot and it was such a wide stream, like mainstream thing that everybody was talking about, everybody was saying, rest in peace, Harambe, rest in peace. Like it was just like a joke about that. And people were upset about him being killed because he was in captivity. So that reminds me of this situation as well. But if we do continue with this article, they end up talking about a Babylon Bee article. And Babylon Bee actually joked about the situation and said, Kristi Noem clarifies killing puppies only makes up of only about 3% of what she does. Yeah, and this would be funny if she actually said that, but it is an actually funny thing right here, because then they go on to say it's the circle of life, and it's the divide between the nation and the rural areas. Yeah, but see, the thing is, people don't see it that way, and that's the only reason why I'm more not paying attention to the article, because of the fact that people don't view it that way. It's obviously common sense. Obviously, when your animal attacks other humans, stuff like that, then okay, we can say here and say, well, if your pit bull attacked like 3 humans already and everybody's bleeding and stuff like that, okay, fine, we need to put your dog down. It's too aggressive. But for this situation, when it was killing chickens, which is another thing that is not living, I just don't get why you would put the dog down instead of actually trying to train it and to not do that in the future, especially because it is a 1-year-old dog. You have plenty of time to do that. You can teach a new dog new tricks, but you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's the saying here. So with that being said, we do have a couple more articles to get to. By a couple, I mean like 20. So what scholars tell us about inflation doesn't mean anything when you cannot afford anything you want to buy. So this is another Federalist article here. We have middle-class Americans don't care about what Paul Coogan's charts say about inflation. Wait, I think I read this yesterday or Monday. Yeah, so we're not going to cover that. I already covered this. If you do want to see my deep dive of that, then you can check out Monday's episode. What I did talk about was grocery prices, inflation according to the graphs, and then compare that to what Americans are seeing. If they go to Aldi, Walmart, Stop and Shop, they can't afford what they want to buy. So these graphs mean nothing if inflation, quote unquote, is coming down. So I did talk about this on Monday's show if you do want to check that out. So with that being said, we do have another Federalist article. We have the Associated Press actually admits new indictments are campaign to deter GOP from questioning elections in the future. Of course, they're going to not want the GOP to question elections, but then they'll have the Democrats question elections all day long for no reason whatsoever. So, with that being said, let's dig right in. The Associated Press admitted on Friday that this week's indictment of 18 Arizona Republicans is, quote, part of a campaign to, quote, deter Republicans from raising challenges and concerns about the integrity of the 2024 election. Democratic Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays indicted 18 individuals, 11 of whom she claims acted illegally when they convinced as alternative electors to certify the Arizona election in favor of Trump, while challenges to the tight election's initial results were ongoing. Under the headline, charges against Trump 2020 fake electors are expected to deter a repeat this year. AP's Nicole Ritchie wrote the indictment of 18 people could help shape the landscape of the challenges to the 2024 election. Quote, the indictment issued Wednesday is part of a campaign to, quote, deter in a repeat of 2020, when Trump and his Republican allies, quote, falsely claimed he won swing states, filed dozens of lawsuits unsuccessfully challenging Democrat Joe Biden's victory, and tried to get Congress to let Trump stay in power, Ritchie wrote. Okay, so the thing is, at the same exact time, we can say, oh, yes, that happened. We can say, oh, yeah, we questioned the election. We went through the proper terms to do that. We went to court. We said, okay, well, we have evidence for it. Here's the evidence. We went to the Supreme Court. All of these things. We had a protest. Mind you, that protest did not stay as a protest. And once protests do not stay peaceful, then that's not a protest anymore. That's a riot. We need to control the crowd. But at the same exact time, we need to sit here and say, in hindsight, Trump did leave on January 8th. On Inauguration Day, I think January 6th. Yeah, no, I think January 8th. That's Inauguration Day. Trump left the White House. So no matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter what you feel about this, Trump left the White House. So you can say, well, he questioned it, whatever. So many former presidents questioned the election in the past. But Trump left on January 8th. On Inauguration Day, he was not even invited to Inauguration Day. So not that he would want to go anyway. But the thing is, he left. Many people can't say the same thing. Moving with this article, the outlet cited Center for Election and Division in research founder David Becker, whose organization helped dump hundreds of millions of dollars in Zuck bucks into local election offices to influence election administration to emphasize the deterrent effect. People are going to have to think twice about doing things to undermine the election. Becker told the AP the deterrent effect is real. Okay, so what they're trying to do is make sure that if you have any questions about the election, you do not bring them up because you will be arrested. So that's not really good for them. It's not really good for anybody to not have, common sense at the forefront. It's not really good for anybody to actually sit here and say, well, if you have any questions about anything, then you cannot bring them up because they're not looked at good. It's not looked at in good faith. It's only looked at as, oh, you're trying to overthrow the election. Get out of here, radical. No. If you have questions about the election, you have questions about the election. Bring them up in the right cases. If you have evidence for it or against it, then bring that up too. Let's have a full-on discussion about it. But we can't censor people for talking. We cannot have people being censored to talk about it. Doesn't make much sense. With that being said here, we have another article. Well, we have a article from the Daily Wire. We have Texas sues Biden over new transgender Title IX rules. So Texas filed a lawsuit on Monday over the administration's new Title IX rules forcing public schools to allow trans-identifying males to compete in women's sports to use women's bathrooms. Yeah, that's disgusting. Earlier this month, the Education Department unveiled new Title IX regulations to prohibit schools from enforcing blanket bans on trans-identifying males and girls sports set to take effect in August. Title IX is the 1947 a federal civil rights law prohibiting sex-based discrimination at schools receiving federal funding. In response, Attorney General Ken Paxton has filed a lawsuit alleging that the administration is attempting to twist the federal law, meaning to align with the radical gender identity. Texas will not allow Joe Biden to rewrite Title IX at whim, destroying legal protections for America in furtherance of this radical obsession with gender ideology. Paxson wrote in a statement on Monday, the attempt to subvert federal law is plainly illegal, undemocratic, and divorced from reality. Texas will always take the lead to oppose Biden's extremist, destructive policies that put women at risk. And they really do, allowing women to have men in their bathrooms when they feel the most vulnerable. Not good. Moving with this article, America's first legal joined Texas in filing the lawsuit and is serving as outside counsel for the state. The charges would fundamentally transform the educational atmosphere of publicly funded educational institutions, forcing communities to adhere to unscientific gender ideology and putting girls and women at risk in K through 12 schools and on college campuses, the conservative legal group said. The new regulations will apply to all public K through 12 schools, colleges, and universities that receive federal funding. Parental rights advocates have criticized the new regulations as too vague, saying that they will discourage schools from enforcing any limits on males in girl sports. So even if you look like a guy with no surgery whatsoever, with no attempt whatsoever to quote-unquote pass as a girl, then you would be able to go on the sports team because of the fact that how do you know that that girl is not really a girl? So that's what the Biden administration would say, and then you will not get funding for your school, and good luck with that because you need the funding for your school because the schools are already underfunded because of the fact that these schools waste money like no tomorrow. With that being said, we do have a couple articles, but that's going to be in our headlines of the week. So without further ado, let's dig right in. So moving right into the headlines of the week, we actually have the story I was talking about. So 8 law enforcement officers were actually shot serving a warrant at a home. That's exactly why there needs to be more protection when it comes to this stuff right here. So 8 law enforcement officials were shot on Monday while serving a warrant at the home of Charlotte, North Carolina. The shooting happened in the area of 5,000 blocks of Galway Drive, with the United States Marshal Fugitive Task Force, which is comprised of several agencies, was serving a warrant. A SWAT team was dispatched to the scene to help get control of the situation. Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Chief Johnny Jean said that out of the 8 that were shot, 4 were the United States Marshals Task Force and 4 with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department, according to WBTV. The report stated that 3 were killed, including one who was a federal agent with the United States Marshals. One of the 5 who was injured in the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department officer who was listed in critical condition. After the publication of this report, the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department announced that the officer who was in critical condition passed away from the injuries. Okay, so this person that shot them is not going to see the light of day at all. Maybe there was I would say that there was maybe a chance before, like when he was served the warrant, but as soon as you open fire on officers, you have no chance whatsoever. If you do get arrested, you're not going to make it out at all. And it's good because you don't deserve that. Quote, "We are very early into this investigation," he said. "CMPD will lead its investigation. We still have a lot to uncover and a lot of questions that are not answered right now." Police said that the scene was clear on Monday evening, that the public around the area was no longer needed to shelter in place. The Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department said that at least one of the shooting suspects was killed at the scene. Okay, so that means 8 was shot, 2 was killed. The Charlotte Okay, so I said that. Two other individuals who were in the home were being questioned by law enforcement officials. The New York Post reported that the law enforcement was serving a warrant for the convicted felon in possession of a firearm. Okay, so that's exactly what he used. So a lot of people are saying, well, because he used a firearm, we should ban all firearms. No, has an illegal possession of a firearm. So what are we saying here? Illegal. So that broke a law. So why would you add more laws for him to break if he would just break the laws? Shooting at an officer, breaking a law. Yeah, there's actually 8 counts of breaking laws because he shot 8 different people. Then, not only that, but he also had a gun illegally. So he possessed the gun without using the law. Oh my goodness. So that means that these criminals don't follow the law? No, of course not. They don't follow the law because they have a gun in the first place. They have an illegal gun. Duh. Not going to stop anybody. It's just a sad thing. What you need is more guns in legal arms. You need more guns that people have legally. They know how to use. That's what happens. The bravery of our officers who responded to the scene, knowing that they were going into the gunfire, is what I've been saying for many years and is in the face of danger. Our people must step up. Jennings said, adding that this was the most tragic shooting that she has ever been involved in. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper posted on X, "Our hearts are with the families and co-workers of our officers in today's brutal attack, including 2 State Department of Adult Correction officers working with the United States Marshal Task Force who were shot and killed." Oh, okay. So when the people that say, "Oh, well, we need correction officers there instead of police," well, there was police. There was a correction officer now. Correction officers were killed. So, yeah, that did not do anything. It's just a sad thing. My heart is with the people that were shot at, too, because this should not be happening in America. Disgusting. With that being said, we do have another article from the Daily Wire. We have University of Florida slams leftist protesters while announcing arrests. Quote, "They are not a daycare." The University of Florida slammed pro-Palestinian protesters this week in a statement announcing that the school had made multiple arrests of individuals who did not comply with the university's policies. The school released a memo to students late last week outlining that conduct was unacceptable, the consequences that the protesters would face if they chose to violate the school policy. This is not complicated. The University of Florida is not a daycare. We do not treat protesters like children. They know the rules. They broke the rules. They will face the consequences, the school said. Local media reported that 9 individuals were arrested on campus by university's police department in Florida's Highway Patrol. Quote, "For many days we have patiently told protesters, many of whom are outside educators, that they were able to exercise their right to free speech and free assembly," the statement said. But we also told them that the clearly prohibited activities would result in trespassing order from UPD, barring them from all university properties for 3 years, and the interim suspension of the university. For days, UPD patiently and consistently retaliated the rules. The statement concluded, "Today, individuals who refused to comply were arrested after UPD gave them multiple warnings and multiple opportunities to comply." Florida Governor Ron DeSantis set the tone regarding that behavior will not be tolerated on school campuses in the state in the aftermath of the October 7th terrorist attack. Just a couple of weeks after the attack, DeSantis ordered the state to crack down on college and student groups that showed support for the Hamas occupation al-Shaika flood terrorist attack. The governor directed Ray Rodriguez, chancellor of the State University System of Florida, to send notices to the University of Florida and the University of South Florida, notifying them that they must deactivate their chapters of Students for Justice of Palestine, the SJP, because they allegedly broke Florida's laws about terrorism. Of course, when you're supporting a terrorist organization, then you're supporting terrorism. We do not want that in America. Quote, during a holy Jewish holiday, the recognized terrorist organization Hamas launched an unprovoked attack on Israel. Among those killed were babies, women, and elderly, Rodriguez said in a letter to the parents of Florida's public universities. Today, approximately 1,400 Israelis had been killed, including 31 American citizens. Governor DeSantis, our state university, and our Florida college system has condemned these attacks. In response to the Palestinian Islamic terrorist attacks, National Students for Justice in Palestine, National SJP, released a toolkit which refers to the Operation al-Saika flood as a resistance and unequivocally states Palestine students in exile are part of this movement, not in solidarity with this movement, the letter said. The letter noted that under Florida law, it is a felony to knowingly provide material support to a designated foreign terrorist organization. Hamas is designated by the United States as a foreign terrorist organization. Here, National SJP has affirmatively identified as part of the Operation Al-Saika flood, a terrorist-led attack. The letter continued, later adding, based on the National SJP's support for terrorism, in consultation with Governor Ron DeSantis, the student chapters must be deactivated. The letter concluded by saying that Florida will continue to monitor the events at the school campuses. Okay, so I completely agree with this. If you are a organization that is centered on another terrorist organization in the world, and you have materials coming straight from that terrorist organization, then why would we allow that on our college campuses? Crickets, of course, because of the fact that there is no reason to do so. There is no reason to sit here and allow our organizations to be taken advantage of just to spread the message of a terrorist organization. Our universities do not deserve that. Our university students deserve a better education than to be indoctrinated by a terrorist organization. No, we should not allow this in our schools. We should not allow this at all in America. We should make sure that people actually know the facts and and that are taught accordingly. They should not be just indoctrinated and that's it, or sitting in protest for days and days and days instead of getting their work done. You're paying for this college. We have college funding federally for these kinds of programs, like the schooling. And you're sitting here wasting the taxpayer money by just sitting there for days and days and days, not doing any work, not doing anything, and just camping out in the front of the lawn. It does not make much sense whatsoever, because that's not going to change anything abroad. It's not going to change anything here, and it's most certainly not going to change anything abroad in the Middle East, because that's thousands and thousands of miles away. So you sitting in a tent in front of your college campus is not going to change anything. With that being said, we're going to dig into the media's takes.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Okay, moving right into the headlines of the week, we actually have a CNN article. We have student loan forgiveness for public sector workers will temporarily be paused. Here's what you need to know. So this is CNN just freaking out, saying, "Oh my God, what? We're not going to get free education? We're not going to be able to learn about our lesbian dance theory for free?" No, you're not. You're not. Congratulations. Welcome to the real world. It's like you have to pay for the things that you have. Isn't that so confusing? It's the exact definition of actually, having an action of yourself, having an action that you took of yourself or for yourself, I should say, for the education purpose, and the ramifications of that would be you paying it back. So I don't know how it's so confusing, but here's what you quote unquote need to know by CNN. Student loan forgiveness for public sector workers such as teachers and nurses will temporarily be paused beginning on May 1st as the Department of Education moves management of the program in-house. Oh, okay. So we're not even going to stop this altogether. It's just going to be in-house now. So the government is going to give you a loan, instead of it being on third parties, so overseas people working on this, it's going to be people in America. Wow. So made in America. Great. The transition is expected to last through July and will impact about 2 million borrowers enrolled in Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, or PSLF, which cancels student loan debt remaining after an eligible borrower has made 120 monthly qualifying payments. The federally contracted student loan servicer, the Missouri Higher Education Loan Authority, is currently tasked with servicing the accounts of these borrowers, but after the transition, borrowers will find themselves up-to-date payments court counts and other information at the Federal Student Aid Office's website. This change will also apply to the teachers' education assistants, blah, 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 blah. What happens if blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let me break it down for you. You pay your own bills. You don't have to worry about this. See, if you don't get things that you can't afford, if you don't go to a college that you did not need to get that degree from, then, it's a simple solution. You don't have to worry about that. So, with that being said, yes, of course, there's things that you need an education for, like a doctor, a dentist, If you want to be a psychologist, stuff like that, of course you need an education for those things. But the majority of things that we do on an everyday basis, we do not need an education for. Like delivery drivers in the front lines of blue-collar jobs of America that keeps America together. Delivery drivers, cooks, fry cooks, chefs, stuff like that. You don't need to go to college for. You can go to culinary for. I mean, specifically the chef in the fry cook setting. But let's just say if you wanted to do like filmmaking or editing, stuff like that, which is the majority of jobs, or not the majority of jobs, but what a lot of people can do from home now, is actually edit or have a YouTube channel, stuff like that. You don't need to go to college for those things. You can spend $50,000, $100,000 on a degree in filmmaking, but is that going to get you the position that you really want? It's not going to get you to the directorship immediately. That's not going to happen. So, moving into the next article, that's going to be a CNN article. Trump will go from the trial to trial and back again. So they're admitting that this is just trial after trial after trial after trial after trial. But as CNN, they don't really care because it's their political rival in the court system. It's not Joe Biden in the court system or Hillary Clinton in the court system. So former President Donald Trump will make his contended effort yet again to turn his criminal trial into a political asset in the next 2 days, heading from the courtroom to the campaign trail and back again. The former president's hush money trial resumes in New York on Tuesday as prosecutors seek to prove that Trump falsified business records to cover up an alleged affair and thereby interfered in the 2016 election by misleading voters. Okay, so obviously we talked about how I feel about this hush money trial. Sending somebody some money to get them to shut up about something is not illegal, by the way. What law did he break? They can't say because it's not against the law to do that. Now they're saying that, okay, well, if you didn't know this, then the outcome of the election would have been different. Okay, so if we did not know about Ashley Biden's diary, then the outcome would have been different. So are you going to admit of these two things? Or are we just going to sit here and just, I don't know. Well, it's one thing. Try to make this half-assed excuse on why we should exactly prosecute Trump and because of the misleading voters, but then we're not going to pay attention to the fact that Joe Biden allegedly, according to Ashley Biden's diary, took showers with Ashley Biden when she was above the age of being normal. That's for damn sure. So are we going to sit here and pretend as though these are not one in the two coins? But then they're not going to have Joe Biden in trial for this. No. What they're going to do is they're going to have Trump in trial for this because, of course, it's the opposition to the mainstream. It's the elites that hate Trump, but they like Joe Biden. So, of course, they're not going to have Joe Biden go to court, of course. Moving on to the next article, we actually have an MSNBC article. Now, if you could not tell, I'm trying to go through this as quickly as I can because we do have a lot of articles to get to. And I don't want to miss any of this because all of these articles are as important as the next. So, moving on to the next article, we actually have an MSNBC article. We have 4 GOP Marjorie Taylor Greene's vacate gambit looks like a dud. So, this is, I guess, going to be one of the very few times that I actually agree with MSNBC. Marjorie Taylor Greene is full of baloney. She does not have anybody to fill the speakership because nobody wants to be the speaker. We have seen so many people be vacant from the House speakership time after time after time after time after time that nobody wants to be the speaker in the Republican side anymore. They saw the support that Nancy Pelosi had with her side and with her political aisle, and she kept everything organized. She was the speaker for such a long time. But then we look and we had so many different speakers in the Republican field, and it's a sad and upsetting thing when we saw what we saw with Kevin McCarthy. Mike Johnson has only been there for 188 days. If you were to look at the history of all of the former House speakers, John Boehner has been in there for 4 years and 297 days. John Boehner was there for such a long time. Some people that were there for 17 years. 1940, 1941, 1943, 1945, 1949, 1951, 1955, 1957, 1959, 1961. Sam Rayburn was there for 17 years and 53 days. That's just crazy. That was such a long time ago. But the thing is that, Nancy Pelosi and stuff like that, all of these former House speakers that we used to have, they really don't last a lot in the last couple of years, unless you're talking about a Democrat. So we can see that time after time after time, it went from John W. McCormack to Carl Albert to Tip O'Neill to Jim Wright to Tom Foley. So all of these people are all Democrats. And then it finally went to Newt Gingrich, which is a Republican, to Dennis Hesworth, is also a Republican. Then it went to Nancy Pelosi, and she was in there from 2007, and she got out in 2011. Then we see John Boehner go in as soon as Nancy Pelosi comes out in 2011. And then we see John Boehner and Paul Ryan go, and then Nancy Pelosi comes back in. Then Kevin McCarthy comes in, and then Mike Johnson comes in. So that's the full, what we see going on right here. But the thing is, Nancy Pelosi had the support of her base, had the support of the Democrats, had everything behind her. But then you look at the Republican side, and the Republicans are not put together. You can tell that there's been time after time after time after time of them trying to choose a speaker, saying, oh, no, this one's not good, this one's good, this one's not good, this one's not good. Listen, how about you just band together to get stuff done? Yes, of course. The House speakership, you need to compromise. You need to come to an agreement, and you need to actually have the votes to get things done. Because if you don't have the votes, then you can't get bills passed. That's the most upsetting thing. So, with that being said, we do have another article from the Daily Wire. We have Trump, DeSantis, and hold a private meeting about working together for 2024. Wow. So this is exactly what I wanted to see. I have Ron DeSantis' book sitting right here on my shelf, The Courage to Be Free by Ron DeSantis. We have Ron DeSantis in front of the American flag. I wanted to vote for him as my presidential candidate in 2024, of course. I wanted to. But the thing is, that's not possible because it's Trump. Trump is the one that's running in the Republican field. I'm a Republican, so I'm going to vote for Trump, of course. I like Trump. I know that he did a lot of good things in 2016, and he also did some things that I didn't really agree with. But for the majority of the time that he was in office, I agreed with how Trump ran his presidency. Now, the thing is, and this is the biggest thing, is Ron DeSantis going to take the spotlight away from Trump and going to be the attention seeker? Because Trump does not want somebody like Ron DeSantis taking all the attention away from him. But if Ron DeSantis wants to be president in 2024, then Ron DeSantis needs this. He needs this because if you were to look at the governorship, he's going to be out of the governorship for about 2 years, from 2026 till 2028. He will not be the governor of Florida. He can't run to be the governor of Florida again. So he's stuck unless they repeal that and then make sure that he can run again to be governor of Florida. But the thing is, I don't think that's going to end up happening. So somebody else is going to come into Florida, and it's going to be a Republican because Florida is bright red because of Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis, if he can go under Trump and be Trump's VP, then that'll be the most flourishing outcome that we can actually have for America. It's going to be the best outcome that we can have for America because that'll be a great thing. I'm very excited about this potential. Former President Donald Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis reportedly held a private meeting on Sunday to discuss working together in the upcoming election. The meeting in Miami, Florida was set up by real estate broker Steve Woodhoff, who is a friend of Trump and has a relationship with DeSantis. Woodhoff also attended the meeting. The New York Times reported that these three men met alone in a private room at Shell Bay, a development and golf club that Woodhoff owns. Trump is looking for DeSantis' help in fundraising to keep up with President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden's donations. And DeSantis is looking to get back to the point where he is viewed as a strong candidate for the 2028 presidential race, the report said. Politico reported that the meeting was in a trivial turn, and that could help restore the relationship between the two before the primary season. The former president launched a series of attacks on DeSantis during the primary, with the governor responding by ramping up more direct criticisms of Trump as the race heated up. When DeSantis dropped out of the race and endorsed Trump, rhetoric from both men indicted was still bad blood. This Sunday morning comes after DeSantis told donors and supporters earlier this month about his plans to fundraise for the former president at a private retreat. Quote, I will follow the governor's lead and will do anything that he or President Trump asked me to do to help him win this election, said Texas businessman Roy Bailey. I know where there are DeSantis supporters all over Texas and all over this country that want to help with President Trump. He's committed to helping Trump in any way possible, Bailey added. If we can unlock and motivate our donors to help Trump and put more fuel in his tank, that's what we will need to do. Okay, but the thing is, we can focus out for a second in here, and we can see that the majority of the fundraising that Trump actually had going towards his campaign went to his legal funds. So he would have had more money for ads and stuff like that if he didn't spend it in his trial. But the thing is, Trump does not have the money to pay for all of these legal bills. So then again, you can really see, but then at the same exact time, you need to be able to have it separate here because the election, you need to actually win the election. You can't spend all the money that you have. So, yeah, I don't know. That's the thing to say there. But the thing is, if they band together, but it's very, very interesting to talk about it and see if this is a potential. Why is this not going to happen? Like, it should happen. Kristi Noem has ruined her chances in the last couple of days with what she's been doing. So we can see that it's to, Tim Scott now? So, I don't know. Tim Scott's good. But the thing is does he have the momentum of DeSantis? No. Not even close to Tim Scott. With that being said, we do have another article from the Daily Wire. We have over half of Americans support mass deportations of illegal immigrants. Now, this over half of Americans should be 99% of the people. And the 1% of the people said, I don't know on the quiz. So, again, these people need to start waking up to America, start waking up to the invasion that's happening across our southern border, across all of our borders. And we need to actually realize that America is worth defending. If we do not defend America's borders, then we have a borderless country, which means that we do not have a country. With that being said, let's dig into the article. So, just over half of Americans say that they support the mass deportation of illegal immigrants. A recent poll found as this issue takes center stage in the race of the presidency. A slim majority of Americans, 51%, say that they support mass deportations of illegal immigrants, a policy that former President Donald Trump has promised if he was reelected to the presidency in November. Support for mass deportations varied widely by partisan affiliation. With 68% of Republicans, 46% of independents, 42% of Democrats support the measure. The poll of 6,251 people performed by the Harris poll on behalf of Axios found that baby boomer generation was most likely to support the deportations at 60%, Gen X 53%, millennials 48%, and Gen Z 35%, the dumbest generation. It also found that 56% of white Americans, support the mass deportations of illegal immigrants, followed by 45% of Latinos and 40% of Black Americans. Americans also explained why they are concerned about the illegal immigration, with 21% citing violence, crime, and drugs, 18% pointing to the costs borne by taxpayers, and 17% citing risks to our national security. So this is a little bit of everything. This is exactly why illegal immigrants should not be allowed in this country, because they're illegal. We're trying to beat around the bush here. It's illegal for a reason. The illegal immigrant is illegal because he came through this country illegally. So he's here illegally. So we should get him out using the proper use cases and the proper situations, put him back to Mexico or wherever he came from, because he does not belong here if he does not want to come into this country legally. Try going into China illegally. You'll be shot. So why are we going to have other countries be more protective than the greatest country to ever live on Earth? Just does not make any sense. With that being said, we do have another article from the Federalist. We have the federal agency had pallets of documents sent to Mar-a-Lago 1 year before the DOJ raid. So, a federal agency worked with the Trump administration, the Trump transition team, to send 2 pallets of document boxes relating to former President Donald Trump's presidency to his Mar-a-Lago home 1 year before special counsel Jack Smith then raided the residence to look for classified documents. Smith indicted Trump in June of 2023 for allegedly mishandling classified documents. 1 year after, armed federal agents raided Mar-a-Lago in search of such documents. The General Services Administration, the GSA, was in talks with Trump's team both during and after his term regarding pallets of items from the president's tenure. Emails show. The GSA informed Trump's transition team that there was 6 pallets that needed to be transferred from Virginia to Florida. Of the 6 pallets, 2 were designated to be sent to Mar-a-Lago and 4 to West Palm Beach storage unit, according to the emails. The 2 pallets to be delivered to Mar-a-Lago from Algeron, Virginia facility contained document boxes, according to an email previewing the shipping charges. I understand that we're ready to ship, read the email sent on August 26, 2021. I'm the Director of Office and Portfolio Management in the Real Estate Program Execution Division. That included Trump's aide Bureau Harrison as a recipient. I know that originally we had 3 pallets going to the storage unit, and that is now 4 pallets going to the storage unit. 2 pallets will go to Mar-a-Lago. A July 2021 letter from Harrison stated that the items to be shipped from Algeron, Virginia to Palm Beach, Florida were required to wind down the office of former president or are items at the property of the federal government. It is unclear how long these pallets sat at the Virginia facility or who had access to them. An FBI agent said during a witness interview that the GSA was in possession of the 6 pallets and the office contracted the office of 45 to inform them that, they have to go, according to the screenshot of the transcript posted by the independent journalist Julie Kelly. Yeah, so we can see already right here that because of the fact that he was already moving the documents, this is where they're going to say, oh, well, this is where you did wrong, this is where you did right, this is where you did wrong. Okay, so the thing is, at the same exact time, there's people going through all these documents to make sure what's classified, what's not classified. So, again, he has full knowledge, Trump has full knowledge of exactly what's classified, what's not classified. And, of course, we have an overclassification process in America. With all of those things being said, though, you should know that when the National Archives Committee is going to your door asking for the documents back, why didn't you give them? At the same exact time, we can say all of those things. We can see that former President Trump and former presidents in the past still did not give their documents up when the National Committee asked them to fork it up. So why is it being done to Trump and not other presidents? I don't really know. It's because of the fact that he has a big glowing red target on his back and he refuses to acknowledge that. It's upsetting and it's very, very frustrating too, seeing Trump get attacked unfairly when you compare that to other people. With that being said, we do have the last article that we're going to actually cover, which is a Federalist article. We have conservative groups see fruits of Pennsylvania vote by mail campaign. Now, I'm going to tell you the summary of this article right here. Now, the thing is that when we vote by mail, we get more people to vote. When we have people that have to go to the polling place itself, then we have less people to vote. If we have absentee ballots, then we have more people to vote. If we have ballot harvesting, we have more people to vote. So if we, as a Republican field or a Republican side, was to actually look at this fact and say, listen, if we want to win in 2024, 2028, and 2032, if we want to win these next couple of elections, then we must do what the Democrats are doing and make sure that we are not the first ones to make sure that we don't do it. We need to make sure that they are the first ones not to do it. We need to make sure that we win first. Then we can take out these laws that are treated with kid gloves and that makes things get treated unfairly. We need to trick them into prosecuting and to get rid of that law. So if we win using that law, then they won't like that law anymore and they'll take the law off the book. But if they were smart, they would keep it on the book. But the thing is, we need to make sure that they remove the law because of the fact that they can use this ballot harvesting like they do at nursing homes. They'll go up to a nursing home and say, oh, well, there's 500 people here. They'll go do it to door. Oh, who do you want to vote for? Boom. And then they'll submit that ballot on behalf of that other person. And then they'll do the same thing for the next person and the next person and the next person. So they have about 500 votes right here in one nursing home. That's called ballot harvesting because you're harvesting all of the ballots. You're putting them into the single carrier, and then you're bringing them to the ballot place on behalf of these other people. That's ballot harvesting. So a lot of people, what you saw in the 2020 election is stuffing the ballot box. So you see all these people carrying a huge bag full of ballots and putting it into the ballot box because they're doing it in the behalf of other people. So that's ballot harvesting at its finest. And then CNN says, oh no, ballot harvesting doesn't happen. Yeah, ballot harvesting does happen. And what you guys do use it as is a good thing. But you don't want to tell the people what you're actually doing because it looks shady as hell. And it is shady as hell. But you need to get into the positions of power to actually change the rules to make it more fair. But the thing is, you can't do that unless you play by the dirty rules that the person that is cheating is using. See what I mean? You cannot win a game unless you cheat also. So the thing is, we as a collective need to make sure that these elections are held to a higher standard. We need to make sure that they're more secure. And with that being said, we need to make sure that we get rid of ballot harvesting in the future after we use it to win. We need to make sure that we have voter ID enabled so then all of our ballots are actually verified and dated properly. I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, if you date it improperly, then your ballot is still counted. Why? You dated it incorrectly. What are you going to do? 1776, America's founding? And then what? And then who are you going to vote for? Trump? Yeah, they're going to believe that. 1776, and then you're going to vote for Trump. And they're going to say, yeah, we'll count that ballot. No. Or you're going to vote for Joe Biden in 1776? No, you're not. That's stupid. So, with that being said, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. We're going to have to end off this episode here. If you did like this episode and you do want to see more, subscribe down below because I do post new episodes of my show every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, and I hope they have a great rest of your day. Bye.